Okay, we are live streaming, so welcome everyone to the Victoria Rooms in the Town Hall. We're here for the next couple of months because of some changes that are happening at the council offices around staff moving about the building, so you'll see us from here, so welcome. 21st of May, and apologies first of all from Councillor Stewart. We have Councillor Bond on Zoom, and a apology for lateness from Mayor Clark. Any other apologies? None? Okay, can I have someone move?
I'll move.
Thanks, Leslie. And second, Tom. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Declarations of interest. If anyone has any interest in the agenda items today, please.
Probably the ICL, Invercargill Central. I'll probably
You'll
move away from that one.
step aside from that. Thank you.
Being a
Alan,
tenant.
we can just note that. We don't have anyone in public forum. So, and we do, item 4 is, we have a late item, a major late item that is coming through to the public excluded session of today's agenda. The reasons for that being public excluded is because of commercial sensitivity. So, I need to move that we receive that. So can I have someone, I can move it if someone seconds. Thanks, Darren. All those in favour of that?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Minutes of the finance and project meeting held in the council chambers on the 16th of April. Can I have someone move that we receive those
I'll
minutes?
move those.
Thanks, Leslie. Seconder. Thanks, Helen. Any commentary or questions around those minutes or points of clarification? Just, I know page 3 of the report, or page is that 7 of board box. Just the Lee was going to bring back a report re the Teanaka building. Is that actually coming back? It isn't on this agenda, is it? So is that coming through to the next finance and projects meeting? Looking at the options to decant the building.
Through yourself, Chair, that report's scheduled to come back, I believe from discussions today, in August.
Okay.
So yeah, we need a little bit more time to get the report done, then we're due to come back in August.
Right, okay. Thank you. Yeah, just it says in the minutes the next finance project meeting, which is this one, it says. Righto. Okay. I've got a mover and seconder to receive those minutes. No final questions? Okay, all those in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. Next is financial updates. So Jamie and Stephanie are going to take us through this report.
Okay, I'll take the report as read. Just want to highlight a couple of things from the expense analyst side of things. So just a reminder that this report focuses on the annual plan compared to the actuals. The performance report, which is following this, looks at the forecasting side of it. The against plan, we are tracking lower, so 2.9 million more deficit year to date than against a evenly divided annual plan of a proportion of 9 out of 12 months. The main variances of this is we are experiencing higher inflation, interest rates, government policy changes, and lower revenue, particularly in the falling consents areas. This is having an impact on our numbers at the moment. When we go into the performance report, I'll go into a bit more detail on how we're going to tackle those through the forecasting space. Also just want to highlight, under the employee expenses section, we've now got a net employee expense line. So this includes a element of staff time that's been allocated to capital. So we've got the gross, what we actually pay the staff member and costs, and then we've got a net amount which is being staff time that's been actually allocated against capital projects.
So, sorry, just on that, Jamie, so that, in effect, what you're doing is you're pulling it from one budget into another budget?
It's just showing what the staff that are actually there for the operational element is. That's really what the bottom line is. The internal job cost allocation is staff we've been brought in that are actually working on capital projects specifically.
Right, so the purpose of doing that is to reflect the total cost of doing that capital project, including staff time, wages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tricia might want to add to that.
The other thing to think about, councillors, is that our capital projects are funded typically by borrowing rather than by rates.
Yes.
So that just allows us to reflect the full cost of delivering our assets and then making sure we're funding them by the most appropriate means.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
Okay, I'd like to table the debt management portion of the report as read, unless anyone's got any questions.
Tom?
So, the following page after the employee expenses, there's the page that is other expenses. And I'm delighted to see that consultancy expenses are running at less than half of budget for the year. So my question is whether that's a sustainable number and whether we have reflected that in next year's budget.
It's a bit of both. So some of the work that consultants have been planned to do has been delayed just to reduce the cost for this year. Some of it we've had a look and said, no, we don't need to do that anymore. So it's a bit of both.
So have we reflected that in next year's budget, if we have that same discipline?
Yes, so we did I was going to touch this in the performance report, but just brought up now. So in the forecasting round we've done in the Q3, we've taken a good hard look at our consultancy. The ones that have been deferred into next year are into next year's forecast and will be included as part of the long-term plan.
Right, so, sorry to pursue the
Yeah,
point here. So, are we saying that all of those savings are deferrals? Or are we saying that some are a matter of actually just deciding to make decisions on their own? And I wondered whether it reflected to some extent in the amount of internal job cost allocation that we have, where clearly that's our people then working on things rather than consultants.
Yeah, no, consultancy is normally operational elements, so it's not relating to capital projects. So it could be, for instance, from the finance area, we sometimes get a tax review done. If we think we don't need it just now, we'll defer that till next year.
Anyway, it's really good to see it as low as that, and I hope that we can change it from a deferral to not using them at all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Any further questions? Just, I had one on page 4 of 8 of the report, or page 15, I think, a board box. Miscellaneous staff expenses, there's a reference in there to the over budget of 348,000 relating to largely recruitment costs. I think some ACC as well. How many staff have we recruited through agencies?
I don't have those numbers on hand. I can take that away and we can come back with something for you.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to note that. then, yeah, we're still on the financial update, page 7 of 8, or page 18, I think, of board books. Just with the comment there about ratepayers in payment plans, do we have what number of ratepayers are on payment plans?
That will be covered in public excluded.
Oh, right, okay. In terms of the numbers, though, that doesn't have to be public excluded, does it, or should it be?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, just the numbers, not
I'm
the
not
the names.
I'm not sure we've got totally how many are on payment plan, have we, Stephanie?
So direct debit or automatic payment plan, there are 31 properties.
Right. And is that number increased? Has that number increased? Is there a trend? I'm just trying to understand, rate of affordability, basically.
I think from my memory that's a slight increase, but that is more payment plans offered to those before we go to
Recovery.
recovery.
Yes.
So as part of that recovery practice, that we offer the payment plan, because it is more cost effective for us to have an
Yeah,
agreed
absolutely.
plan than to go into recovery.
Oh, and it's the right thing to do. So, okay, thank you. Sorry, Rhea?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask a question about the on an error paid. And I note that the reason being for that is that it was tracking below the plan due to a vacancy position for part of the year. I understood that we had sought advice from the Remuneration Authority, and that difference was spread out again between the Project 2025 lead and councillors. So I guess the question is, if it was spread out like that, then why is it still tracking below?
Because that's a standard honour area. So
Right.
what was spread out was the additional that was paid.
Sorry,
to
are you the
Project
financial
1225.
person?
Yeah, no, Michael's
The
going
answer though.
to take that question. Thanks for
Thank
that.
you.
Thanks. So, Councillor Bond, essentially what Councillor Ludlow has said is correct. There is a vacancy for a period of time after the resignation, so the
Yeah.
whole of that salary has been apportioned throughout that. And then once Councillor Ward was elected, there was still the lag of what to do with the uplift that was paid
Right.
for the extra work that Councillor Scout had done for Project 1225. And so that has also been deferred, and that can't be reallocated until council made its determination on how to allocate that funding, which it did. So there will always be for this financial year that decrease in showing what was expected because of the lag in the timing and the by-election.
Thank you for that in-depth answer, Michael. That's good.
Okay, are there any final questions on the finance update? No? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, to receive that?
Move, Chair.
Thank you. And we do have a couple of recommendations. Well, I've just received the report and note the current status of council finances. Seconder? Thank you, Darren. Okay, any final questions? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, the Q3 performance update. Thank you. Must be some big stuff on this. There's 3 people.
Kia ora koutou, councillors. I'll be providing the overview of the Q3 non-financial performance. Sorry, is that better? I'll be providing the overview of the Q3 non-financial performance. So the overall performance for the quarter, we are tracking relatively on par with Q2, as well as this time last year, which is quite good. There are 6 measures at the moment that are being watched as potential risks of not being achieved this financial year, and a further 18 measures which have already failed or are at risk of or are unlikely to be met this year. As we progress through the year and more data becomes available, a number of the measures have moved from being potential risks into, they've shifted into red, so they've either failed already or they are very unlikely to be met this year. And notably there will be the number of complaints relating to the sewer network. So that was due to the September rainfall event, which has caused a significantly higher than usual number of complaints. And even though we've had the performance for quarter 2 and 3 has returned to trend because of that first quarter, we have now exceeded the target for the year. The other ones are the measures with the 100% delivery target, and most of those are the regulatory services measures. So if one was missed for the year, then we have missed the entire measure. And then the remaining ones are generally the satisfaction measures, which are the results are very similar to what we've had in quarter 2. Our core services continue to perform really well. Water and stormwater are on track to meet all their KPIs for the financial year, and sewage will meet all the remaining KPIs except the complaints one. In the solid waste activity, as expected, we have seen higher levels of waste being generated during the warmer months of the year, and we are on track to meet 2 of the measures, and that's the discarded materials rate per person and diverted materials trend. We are tracking slightly below the 22-23 levels, particularly in the recycling space, and the team is continuing to monitor this. On the 1st of February, curbside standardisation came into effect, and this has narrowed the recycle stream. And as expected, we saw those lower levels of recycling. However, at the same time, we did see lower levels of contamination as well come through. It is early days to predict if this will continue, but it's something that the team is definitely keeping an eye on. And during quarter 3, but also towards the end of the quarter 2, there's been a major marketing and education push to support this curbside standardisation coming into place. So it was approximately in November, right through to the end of March, that a media campaign was in place to support this, and also a new WasteNet website was launched to support with this. And lastly, I just wanted to mention the demand for our facilities, particularly parks, venues and splash palace. They've had a really good performance this last quarter, and they're on track to exceed their targets for the year, and also return to pre-COVID levels, hopefully. And I'll just pass on to Jamie now for financial performance.
Cool. Yeah, so from a financial side of things, so as I mentioned earlier, we have carried out quite a big reforecasting exercise in Q3. That has made our year-end projections now a $12.6 million deficit. This is well above the $8.4 million deficit for the plan. The big reasons, as I mentioned earlier, inflation, higher interest rates, government policy, so that's reduced some of the revenue we've been able to get through some subsidies being withdrawn. Falling consent numbers has put a lot of pressure on the regulatory space in the building services area, because we're not getting the consent numbers through, so the level of revenue that is not meeting the projections. Insurance has gone up globally, and we're not exempt from that, so that's added on quite a bit of the reforecast as well. To offset some of these though, so what we have introduced for this last quarter of the year is a number of items. So for instance, we have a non-essential spending freeze on at the moment. So for instance, if there is any non-essential like consultancy, it will be delayed or potentially cancelled. There is also a limiting the amount of recruitment, training and staff hires for this quarter as well. As we've also introduced a council-wide savings idea competition just in-house, which I think Patricia's put up a chocolate cake for the best idea. And for some of the ideas that have come through so far, so looking at catering options, reminding staff to turn off the lights in meeting rooms when they leave to help save the power, and also centralising some of the rubbish bins and recycling bins around the building. So we won't get back to the 8.4 deficit in plan, but we're going to push as far as we can to get as close as we can by the end of the year.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Tom?
I was going to ask a question about that even before you started that. We are showing, I think, 7.8 million deficit through to the end of the March quarter. To get to 12.6, it would mean that 40% of our over budget would be within the last 3 months. So my question really is it really as bad as that? Because that would imply, huge if it was a 12-month. Or how old, I suppose the question is 12.6 million forecast? Because it doesn't look to me as though it's tracking to 12.6, it looks as though it's tracking at less than that.
Yeah. So we settled on the 12.6, I think it was about a month ago. Quarter 4 is always a big month. Technically, it's a 4-month period. Because we no longer do accruals, we have anything from March to June, any invoices that come through there. So it does, when we get to the end of the year, it's always a big month for us in the spend space. Revenue-wise, some of our areas already have all their revenue for the year. So for instance, dog registrations, it's always up front. So they don't have any extra revenue at the end of the year to offset the costs coming in. And there's also the subsidy space as well. So like NZTA subsidy, it's all based on when we put the claim in, and then because we don't do accruals anymore during the year, we don't actually recognise it in our numbers until we actually receive the money in the bank, of which I think there are a couple claims behind. They're not, it's not like when we put the claim in, they pay us the next week. It can be a bit of a lag between they actually comes in.
Okay, so that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? Rangi?
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions. First one, we'll go to work on Rugby Park. After last Tuesday, I think a decision was made, and I'm just clarifying the 2.4 million for stage 2. That says it remains unchanged, so that's separate maintenance work for scaffolding and stuff that's currently underway. And it just states, I imagine the report we have in front of us is up to date.
So the report this was written before the decisions were made the other week.
So
most of that work will still happen for stage 2. There is, I think it's 200k saving potential. But that, again, that was more in the following year, not this financial year.
Okay, so obviously the commentary here says there's people on site, high vis, scaffolding, steel going in. That's all still going ahead. Is that right?
As far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think that was 1.1 million.
Yes, yeah, there is work being completed now,
Yep.
which will finish prior to the NPC season. So the ground will be available for the Stags to play at Rugby Park. Previously, they weren't going to be playing there this year, but now they will be able to.
Okay.
But the decision we made last Tuesday was to defer the expenditure that was forecast for next year, which was around about 2.8 million. And that's the contentious piece
Okay.
around...
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just making sure. The other one was CCTV. Now, it says that 900k, and I imagine that we're talking about stage 1, 20-odd, I think it was 20-odd cameras or something. That is going to be finished in this quarter. And I imagine this quarter finishes end of June.
That is what the projection is at the moment.
Okay, so obviously that's 40 days away. Right, so are we confident on the delivery of that? I'm just looking under the section called capital delivery.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think we had a report to the last Project and Finance Committee meeting last month around the CCTV, and I think there's another report coming through next month. But to answer your question, Rangi, it won't be delivered in June, completed in June. My understanding it will be, could be, later in the year.
right, but we're still on track
won't be
for the
June.
800k budget, or 900k, 800k budget for stage 1. We're still on track.
So this information was at 31 March, and that is what the project teams are telling us that they will spend for the year. So this report is based on what the information that's feeding through the organisation back to the finance team and the performance team, so that we can actually present this. So that's what they told us at 31 March. They expected that they would spend 900,000 this year.
Okay, and that is for stage 1 completed.
Well, it's for stage
It's
one.
for stage one.
I'm not.
I'm not worried about the time so much.
No. But
I'm worried about...
my understanding, recollection from last month's report from Lee, is that no, it's not completed at 30th of June.
No.
Not stage one. Not stage one.
No, I'm not worried about if the completion date goes over that, but I'm more worried about the financial side of it, that stage 1 will be done for 800, 900k and be delivered as we were sort of allowed.
No, so what I take from what Patricia said is that the the projects team has advised finance that the spend up till the 30th of June will be 800,000 as part of stage 1. There's residual cost associated with beyond the 30th of June for stage 1, but in terms of a finance report, they're saying we will spend the 800,000 or whatever by the 30th of June on CCTV, but I certainly know it's not going to be, it'll be more than 800,000 in terms of stage 1 rollout total cost.
Yeah, hold it. Where's the detail on that then? That's sort of, I don't quite understand that. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward project. It shouldn't be so complicated.
Yeah, well, I haven't got the paper in front of me, but
I've just gone back to
Yeah.
the page from last month's finance and projects, and you go back to the strategic projects report, and they did indicate there that, I'm just reading as I go, that they had an estimate to complete of 900,000 with, they had spent 100 and they would have 800 remaining, so there may be a forecasting issue on that one, that I don't know whether they can spend 800 in the last quarter. We'll take that back up with the,
I mean, you only pay on, I take it, this council only pays on invoices.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
don't go,
We're not paying it for it. Yeah. So I think, it's a good point you raised. So let's take a note that we will get an update on the budget in terms of from a financial perspective for the CCT program at the next meeting.
I guess I'm asking these questions because it shouldn't be that difficult. It's not a difficult project.
Well,
it's
proving to be challenging.
Well, it seems to be, but
yeah,
I'm speaking from a professional point of view.
Yeah,
it's not
and I think, part of the problem was that when we originally started it, it wasn't scoped well, so we didn't fully understand the project, and which impacted on the cost and the delivery dates, and I know, for example, we added in Bluff and we added in South City, which were the right things to do on stage 1, where previously they were in stage 2 or even stage 3. So there's been some changes to it. But as far as I'm aware, it is now really well scoped. I think they've received tenders in for the.
So is there any idea when it starts, the actual project? Like, we're going to see guys up poles putting up cameras?
In terms of that, I don't know, but as far as I'm aware, it's underway in terms of they've scoped out where the cameras are going and they understand what is required on each of those points in terms of care and those sorts of things.
I just thought we'd have more detail. This is the the projects committee. Yeah.
We did have a report last month,
but it didn't have detail like that in it. No.
So we'll get some detail for you.
Okay.
Any other questions? I had a few. No, that's right. Okay. No further comment. You were going to say something else, Jamie, or you're
no,
you're good?
All good at the moment.
I know, I did have one. From your savings that you've done, and, you know, well done for doing that, not just you, but all staff and, you know, the ELT, what are you, is there a ballpark number you think you might better save in the next 3 months? Is it like under 1 million, between 1 and 2 million, 10 million?
I wouldn't really want to mention a number, to be honest. I'd like to get the deficit to at least 10 or lower.
Right, okay, thank you. And then just coming back to the investment we've made in waste management and educating and curbside, have we got any monitoring in terms of the changes in behaviour that have resulted from that investment in the education? Have we got any sort of metrics that we're going to monitor to see whether that's led to a change in behaviour?
No, I don't think there's anything yet, but it's definitely something that they'll be keeping an eye on, and I can follow up with the team about that as well.
Yeah, okay. Because I think it'll be, you know, obviously, well, the glass recycling was a key part of long-term plan, and, you know, it's been talked about widely around waste management, and we need to get better at it probably. So what I think it's important for us to understand is how effective are our educational programs in terms of change of behaviour, because we do need to continue to educate our ratepayers and equally, you know, get change of behaviour. So it'd be good to get some feedback around did this work or what works in that space. So,
Yep, absolutely.
okay, thank you. Righto, no further.
Sorry, Chair,
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, we don't have Erin here, but she has all of that and all of that data. All that stuff is collected. It's presented at WasteNet every month.
Oh, right, okay.
Like, you know, about how the behaviour has been changing.
Right, okay. So we could get it through.
I mean, I just wanted to comment because normally I'm sure Erin would jump in if she was here.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'd be good to see it because we've just done a campaign, haven't we?
Yeah.
So it'd be good to sort of see the outcome of it and if it's working or how effective it is. Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, the Q3 performance?
Yeah, I'll move.
Keep coming down. You've moved my screen.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep, note the 66 and 99 measures 67% of levels of service performance indicators are on track, which is a decrease. The 6 measures that are being watched for potential risks and the further 18 measures which have failed. The 8 of 19 activities in the net operating financial performance were lower than forecast. The performance report contains provisional results, and these may change as more data is accumulated. And note the draft LTP budget is being compared on the position outlined in this report with the 23-24 forecast deficit of 12.6 million opening rather than 9.2 and the 8.4 million forecast in the annual plan. And recommend to Council to note the quarterly forecast changes discussed details through the long-term plan and approve the outlined schedule forecast changes in Q3 performance report. And note the approach the Council is taking to minimise the deficit. So can I have someone to move that, please? Thanks, Ringy. Seconder. Thanks, Leslie. Okay, any final questions? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. Okay, so we will now move into public excluded, and the reasons for that are around around privacy primarily and commercial negotiations. So
I'll
can
move that way and
Thank you.
second that if you're moving.
yeah, I can move and Leslie can second. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Righto.